Let us look at how we can solve a quadratic equation in VB.NET. So we'll need to have values for A and for B and for C in a quadratic equation. So we will declare these variables as A and B and C like this, dim A, B, and C as integer like this. And then we'll also need to have a variable to store 0.2 and 0.1, which will be the values of x. So we're going to be having two values of x, so we will have two variables. So dim, I'm going to call the first one x1 and the second one x2, and I'm going to declare them as double. Since you see in our solution here, we can have it as negative 0.2 or 0.5, depend. So after we're done, we need to ask the user to enter the values of A, B, and C. So this is how we do it. We're going to be having a console.writeLine statement. So you can design it anyhow you want, but I'm going to design mine like this. I'm going to ask the user, enter the following values. And then I will have another console statement at the bottom. And then I'll ask the user now to enter A. And then when A is entered on the screen, it will be saved in the variable A. So A is equals to console.readLine. So then after this, I'm just going to demarcate this code, the first entry, so that it looks neater and separated from the other entry. So console.writeLine again. I'm just going to put a pattern like this, just to demarcate with the second entry. And then I'll ask the user again to enter B. So console.writeLine. Then the user has to enter B. And then when B is entered, B will be saved in the variable B. So B is equals to console.readLine like this to save the value of B. So we'll do the same for the value of C. So I'm just going to copy this code and then paste it here, and then change for C, and then change here for C again. So after the values are saved, we now need to calculate using the values that are saved in our variables. So this is how we do it. We're going to be calculating, remember we have x1 and x2. So from our formula, as you know, the formula will be minus b plus or minus. So we're going to be having the first formula x1 calculating for minus b plus, and the second formula calculating for minus b minus, and then the rest will be the same. So x1 will be having this. So x1 is equals to, is assigned, sorry. So we're going to start off with the first formula, which is minus b and plus. And then we need to now put the square root. We now need to put the square root here. So we use the function math.sqrt, that's for square root. And then we open a bracket, and then we need to write b squared, so it's b, and then we put it like this, b squared, and minus 4 is 4ac, so we write it like this, 4 times a times c, like this. And then we close this bracket, and then we close the bracket again to close the main bracket. And then all this will be over or divided against 2a. So that's 2 times a, like this. And then you need to make sure that the 2 times a is in its own set of brackets. So when you click somewhere, you realize that this is now recognized as a valid equation. So just to go through this, b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. So this will be for the plus formula. Then for the negative formula, we will save this in x2. So x2 is equals to, or assigned to, and it's minus b, and then we have minus again, not plus, and then we need to put a square root, so we use the function again, math dot sqrt, like this, and then we open a bracket, and then we write b squared like this, b squared like this. So before we can just continue, we can just copy this code and then just paste it here. So everything else is different from is the same from this part here. The only difference are these signs plus and minus here, because the first value will be for the plus value and the next value calculation will be for the minus value, like this. So that's just where the code is different, but the rest is the same. And then when we are done, we now need to output the values of x, that is in x1 and in x2 after the calculation. So this is how we do it. We use a console.writeLine statement. So console.writeLine, and then I'm going to tell the user. So before we go any further, this is how my text will be coming out. I'll need to tell the user, so I'm going to put it as a comment, the values, I'll say the values of x are, and then put a semicolon, and then the output will come out as minus 0.2, for example, from the equation that's above, minus 0.2 and minus 1. So it's not actually for all the equations that you calculate, but it's for the equation, the example that we have at the top here. I'm just going to show you how now we can do this. So this is how we write it. The values of x are. So after I write this, I now need to have a space after this text. I'm going to talk about this space, and then I'll write space. So before we do that, we concatenate with an end, and then we write space, and then I'm going to have the space of size 1, right? And then I concatenate this now, and I put my variable x1. That's where the first value is going to come from. And I need to have a space again after x1. So I put an end and space of 1, like this. And then I write the next variable. So I concatenate with an end, and I write the next variable x2, like this. So when this line is, it will output something in this format. So this one will be for the first space, this one will be outputting the value in the variable, and this one for the second space, and this one for the next variable. So there are so many formats we can use to write this part, but this is the one I actually love using. So after you're done, make sure that you write your console.read key to prevent your screen from just disappearing. So console.read key, like this. Okay, console.read key. Okay, I wrote it in this wrong place. So it's supposed to be in the sub main. So console.read key, like this. So let's run this code. And we're going to put the values as the ones in the equation in our example. So we have the first value of x will be 5. And the second one is 6, and the third one is 1. And there you go. We have exactly the same we have the same answer that is in our solution here. So if we do this, if you can actually calculate it on paper, you'll realize that these values are correct. So when you do that, you're done. There are so many examples I could have, but you can try with this one. I'm sure you will go through.